excerpt from Artist by Y.J. Zhu. Y.J. Zhu, a Beijing native, currently lives in San Francisco. Her stories have appeared in anthologies and won awards, and she's recently completed a collection of short stories and is writing a novel. Busy person. Artist is a relatively long story. It's recounting the relationship of a film producer with a female artist he meets on location, filming historic Buddhist art painted in the Mogao grottos of the Gobi Desert. He meets her again, and each time the artist's life has taken a new turn. First to the city, then to the communal occupation of a derelict building, then to a house in a village. And all the time the artist is working on a huge painting, erasing and repainting over time. The excerpt we'll hear is from the start of the story, and the reader is Will Goodhand.
An excerpt from Artist by Y.J. Zhu. I met Chen Bing 10 years ago when I tripped over her inside Cave 251 at Mogao Grottos in the Gobi Desert. It was winter, when crisp temperatures kept tourists home, the air free of sand particles, the light sharp and clear, the best time to film the ancient Buddhist shrines carved into a long stretch of sandstone hill. That day, I was searching for the best angle to set up lighting and camera equipment in the 7th century cave. Moving around, absorbed in my own activities, I didn't notice her, a little mouse sitting on the ground, in the dark with a tiny flashlight, shining it on the painted murals, then darting back to her sketchbook. When I accidentally stepped on her hand with my army boots, she screamed. For a week she walked around wounded, unable to draw. Our film crew's special access to the grottos and electricity attracted her. She began following us. Standing under the arch of the cave, shivering in the cold, Chen Bing was the familiar figure I looked forward to each morning. A pale face with baby fat, a nose red as a radish, a sniff from time to time. One morning, I found her curled into a ball, shaking when the mercury dropped below zero. Her round cheeks, hiding her bridgeless nose, appeared as two peaks covered with autumn foliage from the fragrant mountain. I hesitated before draping my extra-large army coat over her. She disappeared into it. "Thank you," she murmured. "Are you a Buddhist?" I remembered asking her. "No, just a painter," she said. "A student, really," she added a moment later. "I graduated from Central Art Academy in Beijing this summer." "I'm from Beijing too, just finished the film school. This is my first job as DP." "What's DP?" she asked. "Director of photography," I said rather haughtily. "The frescoes and statues of bodhisattvas are merely religious artefacts, don't you think?" "This is art. Real art," she said. "And I want to see every cave in the area." "To visit all 492? That would take you more than a year," I said. "Besides, there are other grottos in the area." She glared at me. "Most of the modern art students are flocking to Europe and America," I wanted to say to her. "Aren't you a bit of an old guard?" The filming took longer than anticipated. Funding ran out. The director left to raise more money. Shortly after, the rest of the crew also left. But I stayed. The desert seeped into me. Sand crept into the hollows of my body, my ears, between my toes, under my fingernails, and the depressions in my thought. I began filming my conversations with Chen Bing. Why come here? I dreamt it one night. I was still in high school, determined to be an artist. What was in that dream? Indigo. The air was brushed in that hue. Gauze billowed from the wind, hiding something behind. I wanted to see what was hidden. I knew it was something ataraxic. So I came here after finishing art school. And what did you find? Abandonment. Total abandonment of self. And crushed to the bones to think I call myself an artist. Our rendezvous were almost daily and impromptu. I had figured out her system of studying the caves by dynasty. On New Year's Eve, the Mogao Grotto's administrator's office closed, and with it, our source of electricity. Alone in the caves we sat, darting flashlights on the walls. While she sketched, I studied the frescoes. I began to see the gold threads in the brocaded skirts worn by the Duchess, the double chins on the faces of patrons, the lightness of the complementary lines, the swift movement of the brushes, the straws in the broken arms of bodhisattva sculpture, the free flight favours on the ceilings, the dancers and the musicians in the background. One time, I borrowed a jeep from a man I'd befriended in the nearby town of Dunhuang. We drove around the desert looking for other caves and came upon two mounds rising from the flatness of the land like twin humps on a camel's back. Chen Bing called out, "It's the Han Great Wall!" To me, they looked almost indistinguishable from random swells in the ground. I could have driven over or smashed into them without thought or regard. The desert had no roads, no signposts, just the elements that make up the earth. Close by, we found a longer section of the wall, finely ground gravel, reinforced with willow reeds that had stood for more than 2,000 years, reflecting the sun. It ran straight on for more than a kilometre, like a dotted line, a broken memory extending into the horizon, swallowed by the bleached landscape. Chen Bing turned to me. Few edifices leave marks. A band of light streaked across her face, spotlighting her mouth. We are so minuscule. A flash in history, a flicker in time. Time, I thought. What was time? But a measurement to acknowledge the passing of lives that would soon become the past. And the past, in the desert, was only a mirage. We continued on, parallel to the Han Great Wall, and came to Yuman Guan, the Jade Gate, still standing, welcoming present-day wanderers as it once did the ancient caravans on the Silk Road. Stopping the jeep, we got out and walked around the gate in silence, shared a few cigarettes, then got back on the road. "How much do you think our bones weigh?" she muttered as we drove deep into the desert with only burial mounds of pilgrims and merchants as landmarks. Her disconcerting tone echoed the fragility of lives that surrounded us, chilling me. When Chinese New Year came, I went home to Beijing.